played LA Noire 3 times now, once on the Xbox 360 a few years after release, once when the remaster released on the Xbox One, and once again on the PS4 to make this video. Every time I've played LA Noire I've enjoyed it, loved it even. I think it's an excellent game and one of Rockstar's best, and that's for many reasons. One that always sticks out amongst the others is that LA Noire is dripping with style. LA Noire, as the title would suggest, is set in LA during 1947. The Second World War has just ended and decorated war soldier Cole Phelps is trying his best to move up the ranks of the police force, going from a regular cop to a detective who works his way up the ladder with his detective skills and intuition. As Cole, you'll solve murders, car crashes, fires, and even government conspiracies towards the end, all with the backdrop of post-World War II LA. LA in 1947 wasn't the nicest place. Well, it isn't now, but for different reasons, and LA Noire presents both the glamour and the grime of LA masterfully. From the very opening of the game, it's clear that Brendan McNamara and Team Bondi set out to create something that's authentic, but still has a certain style to it. Even before the game starts, you're met with a menu and a title screen that somehow manages to convey the game's setting and themes perfectly, something that games rarely do. Considering this is the first thing the players see, it's important to make the right first impression, and Team Bondi did what so few other games could. When you start the game, you get an opening cutscene that is just incredible. While it seems simple and maybe even generic, to me it opens up the game perfectly. The opening lets you know exactly what to expect from LA Noire. It details LA at the time and the people who lived there, and you know exactly what to expect in the game to come, all being presented just brilliantly, with text appearing from behind trees and billboards, as well as the monologue foreshadowing the game and its characters, most cleverly done with the billboard of Leland Monroe being shown when Herschel's talking about opportunists. On top of the whole scene being letterboxed, also giving off that film atmosphere. Speaking of film, it makes sense to mention all the great film references there are that just give off that noir style, such as the fact that one of the cases takes place on the Intolerance set, as well as the Brokeback Mountain and Vertigo posters that I only noticed this time playing through. As I've mentioned before, the game embodies the grime of LA life as well as the glamour, which is all embodied in Roy Earl. Rather than idealising LA, Roy represents the abuse, racism and corruption that were all prevalent at the time, and just in general is a bit of a dickhead.
What an evening I'm having. First a Negro puts his hands on me and then this. Who do you think you're talking to, you German junkie whore? Don't you ever forget your place with me again. Do you hear me?
As mentioned before, the game represents both sides. We also have cases like the Fallen Idol, which present us one of the main ideals of the city, acting and stardom. But like most things in LA, all that seem positive crumble when the backdrop is revealed. All this with a soundtrack that, like the game in general, is incredibly underrated. It adds so much to the atmosphere of the game, whether it be bleak, intense or triumphant. It always adds so much to the game and its immersion, which generally is perfect. LA Noire was definitely one of the most immersive games of its time. The dialogue all feels natural and of the time, whether it be Rusty bragging about his $30 suit, Bukowski accusing Cole of being a communist. It all feels very much of its time, and whenever I did something wrong, I was always waiting to be scolded by my partner, each with their own unique dialogue, as well as different opinions and ideas on each case. Rusty, for example, has become lazy over the years and will most likely want to shut the case as soon as he can. Speaking of cases, each case begins with its own cinematic that is heavily stylised, and the cases themselves are often based on actual crimes that happened during the late 40s. Now I've spoken about cases, characters, themes, it only makes sense to what the world in this open world game. Team Bondi went to extreme lengths to make LA as realistic as possible. It was difficult to make it as accurate as they wanted it to be due to the fact that the time they were basing it off happened 65 years ago. So they based LA off pictures taken by a man stood on an aeroplane during the 40s. And for all the setbacks and time that it took to make LA in LA Noire, I think it was all worth it because the city had so much to the game. Feeling vibrant and alive like so few games in 2011 did. Feeling like much more than just an open world, and instead a recreation of post-war LA, with interiors, buildings, cars and people that will add to the time and the immersion and just how alive the world feels. Over the years, there have been so many games with a focus on style, both new and old, whether it be GTA Vice City, the Mafia games, Yakuza games, or maybe even Persona 5, which had excellent style, but to me, none of them will beat LA Noire. I think LA Noire is a great game for a lot of reasons, but as I said before, the style always sticks out in just how much it adds to the story and the world and the escapism that it gives you. Team Bondi went above and beyond the stylisation of LA Noire. It was a level that you don't expect in films or TV shows like Mad Men, and as a Mad Men fan it was great seeing so many cast members from that show in the game, as I'm sure Team Bondi intended. To have a game world with the depth and nuance of LA Noire is so rare, and it's something you'd only expect from a publisher like Rockstar, and knowing them, they're the most likely people to top it, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see.